Are you ready to learn from an incredible author who has not only just published 14 books of her own, but has helped thousands of authors be able to get published too? This is the Scale You podcast, where every single season we are bringing in a lot of incredible experts to be able to show off what they do best and going through the different ways you can scale yourself, whether that is through business, being a digital nomad, having multiple businesses. And for this season, we are focused on a lot of entrepreneurs who have published their own books and been able to scale themselves in that way. My name is Lacaba. I am your host. I have published my own book, Scale You, that is available on Amazon. I run an executive assistant outsourcing company here in the Philippines. And as my book and this podcast name suggests, let's go ahead and scale you. Now, our guest for today is the founder of Rethink Press, Book Magic AI, the book writing app, and the Business Book Awards. She also hosts Mission Magic Women's Network and runs the Mission Mastermind. She is the author of 14 books, including most recently Book Magic, How to Become an Author Faster and Transform Your Expertise into Business Gold. She has written 3 novels, 4 self-help books, and 7 books on writing books. She mentors nonfiction and fiction authors through planning and writing their books and is the UK's most experienced business book mentor. She won a Stevie Award for Women Helping Women in Business and the Great British Business Women's Award for Creative Industries Businesswoman of the Year for her work supporting more women to write and publish their business books. She is someone who hosted a workshop that I attended 4 years ago before I even thought of publishing my own book. So I did fangirl a little bit on this podcast. So please help me welcome someone I look up to in the industry, our guest for today, Lucy. Hi, Lucy.
Hi, Leanne. Thank you for having me.
Excited to have you. Like I said, you're someone, I remember when I first came across what you do, I was still coming out actually, so a little bit of background. I was still coming out of, I actually ran a publishing company right before. So I fully appreciated your guys' process as well before we dive into it. But I just wanted to give you that praise right up front because that was amazing of the process that you helped a lot of people who wanted to become authors. The way that you guys broke down the process of that, I want to commend you first and foremost. Now let's dive into, your background. Like, as we're going to dive into your book as well later on, tell us more about where you started, wherever you want to start with your amazing life journey and kind of how you got here.
Okay, well, my life journey is pretty long now. So I started in Australia. I'm not Australian, but I started there publishing magazines. So I started a theatre magazine in Australia, which I published for 8 years, which was an absolutely insane thing to do, but incredibly good, useful background. Then I came back to England, and by that time I was sort of in TV. I had been on TV in Australia, and I then got into writing and producing for TV, and that was sort of that was my next phase of life. And then I strangely became a work-life balance expert because that just kind of came my way, and it was really interesting. I spent a decade kind of consulting to big and small companies about implementing work-life balance, because at that point it was quite new at the beginning of the 20s. So it was a kind of newish concept, and people felt they needed a consultant to tell them how to do it and to explain that flexible working was actually very it affected the bottom line in a positive way. So I worked with really small companies and big companies like Microsoft and Virgin and all sorts. So that was interesting. And then I wrote a few novels, and then I went back into publishing with I came across my current business partner. Well, Joe Gregory and I have been working together for the last 14 years. And we started Rethink Press specifically to publish the books of entrepreneurs and expert business owners who needed to have a good book out there, particularly to build their business, but because their markets are niche and comparatively small, are not likely to attract a traditional publishing contract. So we came up with a different business model where the author pays for the services, the publishing services, to have their book published, and we really help them position that book and make it work for them so there is a real ROI, even if it's not an actual book sales.
Yeah, and it's true. And it's, again, as someone who did go through your program, being part of debt, basically, that was such an incredible experience. Like you guys had at that time, I think that was in 2021. I think was when I joined. I think it was like December 2021. I joined it. I got like a couple of the coaching sessions. I used it, the tool that you guys were using at that time as well. And it was such an incredible kind of walkthrough experience for someone to be able to break down years of experience basically into a book. And I love that you talked about your many lives as well, as most people do, especially a little bit of entrepreneurial, like, oh, I want to do this, I want to focus on this. So I love that we touched on that. First, before I jump into the other question I wanted to ask, how many books do you have right now published for yourself?
We've published, me personally or Rethink Press?
You personally, and then we go through. Yeah, that was going to be the next question.
I've just published my 14th book. So
wow.
that's what I guess that's what I enjoy doing. Really, writing is what I enjoy doing most. But I do also love mentoring people as well. So I write books about writing books a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So putting the mentoring stuff in published form.
Incredible. And for Rethink, I remember I saw the milestone you guys hit a few months back. But how many books have you guys published?
So we've published over 1,000 books. I mean, I haven't got the exact figure now, but it is, it's well over 1,000. I mean, I've mentored between 1,000 and 2,000 entrepreneurs to write their book, and then we have published, over 1,000. So, we publish on the whole about 70 books a year. So it's a really kind of thriving market, and what I love about it is that we really are able to affect transformation for people's businesses, and it's and I suppose most of the people that I work with are not professional writers.
Yeah.
So they really need the step-by-step approach to how you get the right book written, how you get it planned out, and then how you get through the writing process, which, as you know, is not just it's not just the sort of hard work and intellectual work. It's actually a very emotional process. So you need kind of support to get through that.
I agree. And like I said, like your guys' model has that all perfectly, makes it super easy for someone. Sadly, it took 3 years for me to publish my book, even with your guys' process, but it was also because, like you said, there's that additional kind of accountability and support that someone does need going through it. So with 14 books, tell us about the first book that you ever wrote and published. What was that about?
Well, the first book, it's funny because I always grew up wanting to be a writer, and I always thought that I would probably write novels. But the first book I was commissioned to write by a publisher was called The Book of Balanced Living, and that was when I was doing work-life balance. So, I'd been publishing magazines and writing. I was a journalist as well. But yeah, it was about work-life balance, and funnily enough, it was a self-help book that in fact followed the format that I now tell other people. And I knew nothing about writing business books or kind of non-fiction really. So I just kind of made up a format and put case studies in and told stories and kind of chunked it down into exercises and things. And it sort of was the basis of what I teach people to do now. So it was, so that was the first book. And then I wrote a corporate version of it called the Work-Life Manual that was for businesses to implement it, and then I wrote a couple of self-help books, and then I got into novel writing for a bit.
I was going to ask, did you end up writing novels? Yeah. What are those books about? My first novel was about, it was called Blood and Water, as in which is thicker, blood or water, because I had a first marriage where I had two biological children, and then a second marriage where we adopted two children. So I was kind of exploring, the idea of is there a difference in a way between adopted families and biological families, although I wrote a terrible version of it first that was just a kind of an exploration of my own life, and I sent it to an agent, and she said, this is really boring and unbelievable. And I said, it can't be unbelievable, it's all true, it's my life. And she said, no, it's got no structure. And that was actually when I did a lot of research and reading about structuring books, both fiction and non-fiction. And that really gave me a very, very good, I had to kind of take it on the chin that I had written something really dreadful. But it gave me a great learning
experience. And then I did rewrite the novel, and it got published by Macmillan, so that was nice.
That's cool. Got it. I'll have to dive into your. I know you've had a series of books published, but I didn't know about the novel part. I've like I mentioned before we started recording, I do have some of the nonfiction, mostly the book writing focused books, but I didn't know you had novels. So I'll probably have to like dive into that after this call. So thank you so much. Tell us more about that then, because you've done so many books at this point. Is it easier? Is it harder? Like, what's that process like for you now that you can look back and you like, oh, I've done 13 books. This is now my 14th. What is that process so far?
It is easier. Obviously, the more you do something, the more competent you get at it. So I guess it's easier. But I use, we've now created an app, a book writing app called Book Magic AI. And I was updating my kind of how to write a book, which has had several kind of iterations and titles. So I was writing a book called Book Magic, and I thought, well, look, I'm an experienced writer. The app is really for first-time writers or, inexperienced writers. I don't really need it, but I will give it a go because I have to use my own app to write my book. So I did, and actually it was brilliant. It worked so well, and I found it really, really speeded up my writing. It helped me plan better, and the AI, which does not write your book for you. I have to be very clear about that. You don't, you have to write your own book. But all around that, the AI is just brilliant at sort of creating a reader avatar for you and understanding your business and helping you structure and coming up with ideas and metaphors. And then at the end of it, we've just added a new aspect to it where it will promote your book. So your book is you've then written your book in the app, and it will just spit out from your book, 12 LinkedIn articles, half a dozen Facebook posts, and it will post them for you. You just have to set the date. So it does it straight to your social media platforms. So it's really, and that's what we want, because we want people to really, use their book to build their business. And this is a great way of doing it. So I definitely found it easier to write my last book because of my own book writing app. So that was quite good validation, really.
That's super cool. Like I said, I did sign up for the beta, and that was like I think a year or 2 years ago now. And I played around with it. I was like still writing my book at that time. I'm like, I'll bookend this, for lack of a better term, until I write my next book. So I'm gonna have to dive into it again. So with that obviously became kind of the inspiration for your the newest book that you've published. Tell us more about it. Like, what can someone expect reading Book Magic? Like, do they have to have the app, or would it also be okay for them to kind of guide themselves through without it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's not. It is a standalone book. I do kind of make reference to the app throughout the book because it just makes it easier. I mean, I would advise people to use the app, but no, some people just don't want to do that. They prefer to, some people even prefer to write on paper, still. But I mean, I thought that I would prefer to, use my old kind of methods of Word documents and kind of the clunky kind of way, and it was much better. But some people, really don't want to be in an app, and that's absolutely fine. So the book takes you through the entire process from positioning your book and making sure you are writing to your ideal client, to your market, through the detail of the planning process. And when we used to work with Key Person of Influence program, we actually started with coloured index cards, using those as the basis for the planning. And you can still do that. It still works perfectly well. But inside the app, you have those colours that are used to create a structure for your book. And it's just easier that way. But if, some people like the kind of kinesthetic feel of seeing their book spread out on a table or on the floor or somewhere and being able to move the cards around. So it just works very well as a planning process. And then
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
And then finally, there's the writer process, which takes you through. Again, I think people often get stuck in the writing because, especially your first draft, it's a big project, and it is time consuming, and it is taxing intellectually, and it's, as we said before, it's emotional, because you're getting this stuff that's in your head out onto the page. And sometimes, I'm over the years, I've been doing this for over 12 years now, taking people through the process, so I'm really kind of clear on where typically they will go, yes, this is brilliant, yes, I've started, it's all great, I can do this, and then it sort of gets difficult, and you suddenly go, oh no, I've got imposter syndrome, who's going to read this, it's all really boring, maybe I should give up. And that's when you have to sort of inspire people to keep going, because then you go up the curve again, and you get to about 2/3 of the way through your first manuscript, and you realize, wow, I've put 20,000 words out, and it's actually rather good, and it is, I am doing something useful. And then but if you don't chunk the writing process down into discrete stages, it all feels incredibly overwhelming, and that's where people will kind of give up and feel they can't manage it.
True. I was saying, you took me back there, because I remember receiving the package with like the index card with the notebook, the really thick notebook. I remember that. I was like, oh, this is really heavy. And I also remember I also got the mug, basically, that I'm currently writing. I have it somewhere in my space still, because I love using that mug. And I remember the index cards. Like, for me, I didn't put it on the table. I actually remember putting it up on my wall, because it was so helpful being able to break down what I was trying to do, what I was trying to create with my book. That I could visualize it. And a piece of advice I'll always remember that you guys gave is, it's okay to also write chapters. It doesn't have to be that I'm writing chronologically, but I can write, like, pick and choose which section I want to write. Because it did become very intimidating, like looking everything like, oh yeah, I was like 12 chapters. So like, I think I ended up at 16 when I finally published my book. But I remember that feeling of like, how do I do this? But your guys' process of breaking it down and making it feel less like you have to lock in a cabin for 3 days writing this, versus like, oh, you can just take this by chunks, made it easier, because, and you probably know this better than most, when it comes to coaching entrepreneurs, it's hard for them to lock themselves in a cabin for 3 days.
Absolutely. You've got to be able to write your book around running your business. You can't just take 3 weeks off, or 3 days, even 3 days. You have to be able to take. I always tell people to get into a writing habit, because that's the way it's done. And the most popular one, it doesn't work for everyone, but the most popular one is to get up an hour early, don't do anything else, probably stay in your pajamas, don't open your email, don't do anything except sit down for an hour and write the next 1,000 words of your book, and then leave it, and then get on with your day. And if you do that for like 30 days, you've got the basis of your book there. So it's not as hard as you think it's going to be. It is manageable, but you do, if you're in a habit of doing something at the same time every day, with the same props, the same mug, the same coffee, the same, if you listen to music, whatever it is, your mind goes into, right, this is writing time, writing mode, and it gets easier and easier.
I love that. And I do remember that. The routine I have, and I could probably go back all the way to 2021 when I was writing my book, was I would go to the same Starbucks, order the same drink, sit there 9 o'clock to 10, I think, if I remember right. And I would do that. I would try to write 1,000 words every single time. I got it to the point where the Starbucks people will see me outside. They're already preparing my drink, because they know I'm going to order the same thing every single time. And it's true. It's you're kind of training your brain that this is now normal. This is your norm, like you're a writer, and kind of really owning that character. So thank you for that. That's a really good way to get people into it. So for someone who's written like a lot of books, how have you seen the impact of having the books kind of, in a way, not to be too cliche on our title of our podcast, like how have you kind of seen the effects of like scaling beyond, you don't have to talk to people one-on-one, you can just have them kind of read your book? How have you kind of seen that kind of scaling on your thoughts and your ideas and your writing?
What other people's or mine? I mean,
for other people, like the effect.
yes,
Yeah,
no,
that you see.
absolutely. I mean, I've got so many great authors. I mean, so many stories. People tend to come back to us after, maybe 6 months, and they've always got a story that begins something like, "You'll never guess what happened." And it's all because of the book. And I've literally had an author come back after 6 months saying, "I'm in terrible trouble. I don't know what to do. My book went out there, and sort of I didn't even do any promotions, and my business has doubled, and I don't know how to cope with it. What shall I do?" I mean, that's a bit of a first world problem, but that genuinely happened to one of our authors, and I sent him back to Daniel Priestley for sorting that one out. But we've had people who have got fantastic speaking gigs, who have clearly become the expert in their field. So they are, they're called on in the media. People who have managed to, totally raise their game in terms of their business, raise their prices, get better clients, and just, sell by not selling, because that's what the book does. It's I always call it your undercover sales agent, because it's not a business card, it's not a marketing brochure, it's not a pitch. It is just value, and it actually has a monetary value that people will pay for your book. So if you gift it to someone, it really is a genuine kind of gift, and they will look at it, and they don't necessarily have to even read the whole thing, but it just talks about what you do and how you do it and your expertise. And if they're your ideal client, they will want to come back. And my other kind of really important tip is always put lots of case studies in your book, because at some stage, every ideal prospect will go, "Oh, that's me. I'm in that position now. I need the help that they've had." So, tell lots of little stories about your clients and how you've helped them and what your interventions are. And then, other prospects will read that and identify with it and want to come back and work with you. And that's how you make your ROI on your book.
That's so true. I love that the doubling down on the case studies, because I remember when I was writing it myself, it was kind of a little bit hard for me to try to really capture, but the more that I did it, it was easier for me to also because I was going through that writing process, part of me talking to other potential clients, it was then easy for me to think of I'll use this case study to speak to them about this particular thing. So it's not just about them identifying themselves in the book. You can also use it easily on conversations. And I love what you said. It's not a business card. It's not a big poster of you. Because I was in a conference in Vietnam, and literally I didn't have a big enough bag to hide my book, but so I was bringing it around. So when people asked "Oh, what's your name?" I would point to my book. I'm like, then someone actually said, "This is the best business card you could ever show up with," and I'm like, okay, I'll bring this everywhere now. And it's true.
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially when the book spells out, and you guys have a whole process about it. When the book spells out the title itself, spells out the prize that they're hoping and planning to get. Yeah. So,
we always start with the 3 P's of position, which is the person, their pain, and your promise. And you get those are how you position your book to exactly the right person. But also your title and subtitle needs to include all 3 of those things. So when somebody picks up your book and you've got that 2-second window where they go, "Is this book for me?" It's very clearly, yes, it is. This is the book for you.
I remember going through the workshops with your team on finalizing the title of my book. And it was I think I had 10 different titles I had in mind. And then your team was the one who finalized Scale You for me. And I'm like, okay, I'll stick to that. And throughout the years, I've had should I change the title? But it's so solid for what it is.
It's a brilliant title.
Good.
It just is what it just says it all. It's that's the great thing.
Very true, very true. What would you say is still something that's hard for you, when you're writing? What are the times that you still are a little bit stuck when you're going through it?
I probably go through the same emotional kind of ups and downs as anybody. You start off and you've got this idea and you think, yeah, that's great. I can, I'll just sort of start with my, everything I can think of to begin with. And then you get into the hard bit where it's sort of, oh, what am I going to say about this bit? I've written this, I've got this structure, I've got my topic headings and I need to fill them. And it is sort of about there'll always be some difficult ones. So, I mean, as you said, and the great thing about Book Magic is that you can just pick your topics. If you get stuck on one, don't sit there thinking, I can't write anything. Don't sort of succumb to writer's block. Just pick the next one that feels easy. And, somewhere along the line, it will. And by the time you go back to the difficult one, you've written so much around it that suddenly it becomes easy. And I think the other thing that I do a lot is to allow my subconscious to process. If I get stuck somewhere and I can't solve the problem actively thinking about it, I sort of push it away. I do other things. I listen to audiobooks that are completely different, or I just, go and walk with dogs or something. And I try actively not to think about it. But your subconscious then has the freedom to sort of freewheel in the background of your mind. And then, you get up the next morning and ping, suddenly you know what you have to do. You know what you solved the problem. So I think, I find the same things as everybody else, that there's a hard bit and I don't know what to write about that and I'm a bit stuck. But also in Book Magic, the AI is really helpful with that. I mean, as I say, it doesn't write it for you, but if you say to it, I'm really not sure what to put about this. What are some possible topics I could put in this topic? It will come up with brilliant stuff. It won't all be good. You won't use it all, but it just breaks that barrier of the empty page. And you can get started. So yeah, I mean, I same for me as everybody else, but certainly AI is a game changer.
Oh yeah, I love that you guys have used to that, and I remember in your marketing that there was the main thing that you leaned on of like, this is not supposed to write the book for you, but this is supposed to aid you in writing the book. And I completely agree on the taking a break, taking a pause, but you guys did create a really good structure as well for people to not have to stare at the blank page, because it can be very intimidating for a lot of people to just keep looking at that cursor like pulsing. So I understand the having kind of a good structure that you can get started with, so it is a little bit easier. Well, the favorite question that I love asking, and I think I have an inkling of like how you want to answer this, is with AI. Speaking of AI, if you could able to duplicate you, if it were to completely clone you, whether it's cloning your whole brain maybe into an app, or maybe even just cloning you physically. Let's say there's 20 Lucys out there, 50, 100, 300, an army. How would you want to change or influence the world?
I would just want more time, really. I would want to, I've got so many projects on the go and things that I want to do that I would just have, one of me dedicated to each of them. So I am writing another novel at the moment. I'd love to have another me who can just concentrate on the novel. And I've got Rethink Press to run, obviously not on my own. But, I'd like to have a Lucy for Rethink Press, a Lucy for Book Magic, and a Lucy for other projects that I've got coming up. So that would probably be how I do it.
So basically just doing more of what you're currently doing. Just put a little bit more Lucy into all of it too. So that is incredible. How can they find you? How can they find your books as well? And how can they connect with you?
Well, you can look on Amazon for my books. My name is spelled in a very odd way, so I am the only person out there. But also find me on LinkedIn, go to rethinkpress.com, or certainly try out Book Magic at bookmagic.ai, and you can have a play with it for free before you sign up if you want to check out what it does. I'm on most social media and social media platforms, and as I say, I'm the only person with my rather strange name, so
easy as heel.
Probably find me.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lucy, for sharing a lot of, not just about your book, but a lot of insight when it comes to writing that not a lot of people usually see or even think about. And also, of course, for sharing your incredible journey. Thank you so much, Lucy.
Thank you, Leanne.
If you guys enjoyed that interview with Lucy, again, all of her links are going to be below, including the links, of course, to her book on Amazon. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that like button wherever you're watching or listening this from. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to leave a comment below. of any questions that you might have when it comes to writing and publishing your own book. Lucy might just be watching. And of course, if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the episodes here at the Scale You podcast. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. And remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.